Welcome to the Disciples of the Watch podcast with your hosts, Gene Vogel and Nate Matnich.
Welcome, metal brothers and sisters, and thank you for joining us. I hope you're ready for another deep dive.
In this episode, we're going to go track by track on Kerry King's first solo album, Post-Slayer, From Hell I Rise. I'm Nate Matnich.
And I'm Gene Vogel. Thank you for joining us. So, Nate, how do you feel about going into this one? We've had some time to live with this CD for a while, but we haven't done a track by track in quite a while, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good album. It's really good.
Well, spoiler alert.
Looking forward to talking about it.
As am I. I'm curious to see what some of the more down track by track or the, as we get into the meat of it, how it's going to fare for both of us, actually.
Whenever we do these track by tracks, I always wish I was a little more eloquent with my wording.
Yeah.
I'm like taking notes. It's like, oh yeah, there's a heavy riff. Oh yeah, this is a good lead. Like that's the extent of my fucking my reviewing abilities. Oh shit.
You're right, but we don't need it to be like, well, when he went from the minor key to the major key, that's when really things got kicked it up a notch and bore everybody to tears.
Yeah, I suppose. Oh, there's times where I wish I had some words like that though, because there's some of the way the instrumentation is done is pretty fucking cool, you know. Oh, listen to that Phrygian scale.
Did you look that up before the show, or did you just pull that one out of your ass?
I remember that one from music theory.
Okay. Very good.
One of the few classes I probably paid attention to in school, you know?
Yeah, I can relate. More interesting shit. Hell yeah. Quite relatable. I understand. All right. Any bookworking we need to do, any catch up we need to do before we get rolling into this baby? Like I said, yeah, it's been a while since we've kicked off a track by track. I know we've kind of shied away from them, but this was an important album that we felt like we should kick it off and do a track by track on it.
Yeah, I'm ready to dig in.
Fabulous. I got now this you bought on vinyl, correct?
Yep, I got the vinyl.
Yeah, and then I've got my CD. It's right here in my hand, right there up for the camera for Nate to see. So I got my CD. I did not do the vinyl purchase on this one. I decided I was going to go cheap and get the CD, but still supporting Kerry and his solo endeavors. Which, did you see recently he put to bed any discussion on new Slayer recordings? I think his energies are all going to be poured into his solo career at this point, to where he doesn't want to take it. I wonder if he feels it's a step back to go back and try to release anything under the Slayer name. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it'd be a step back at all. But, I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. Right,
but he's trying to launch a solo career. He's trying to, define the future of Kerry King begins now. And if he keeps going backwards to plink around with the Slayer thing down there, personally, I'd love to hear another Slayer. I'd like to hear Tom. He hasn't been singing in a while unless he's doing karaoke at local bars or something. So maybe I would be curious how his voice is holding up. Maybe some time off would be pretty strong. Get him back and ready to start belt out another album. Even if they don't tour it, I'd be up for it.
I mean, we might as well just bring this up now because it's going to come up throughout this discussion. But the similarities of Kerry King's solo stuff to Slayer, and I just want to say that upon first, like the first couple listens, I definitely felt like it was very Slayer-esque. And if musically, of course it is, because Kerry King is one of the main songwriters, so there's no escaping it unless he intentionally tried to go a different direction. But I vocally specifically, the more I listen to it, the less Tom Araya it sounds to me. And I actually was listening to this album yesterday, and then I put on Repentless right afterwards. And I think no matter what, Slayer is just a heavier band even still. This the solo album's very heavy, but Slayer is just super heavy. There's a magic there with that group.
That's kind of, as you were talking about it, and I was kind of reflecting as you were discussing it on my own experience. And yeah, I feel that's what is missing is the legacy that, he unfortunately cannot carry forward. I mean, he's got his own personal legacy, but the entity that was Slayer, even if it was just Kerry and Tom, was still, there's something about that energy that, you're right, doesn't come into this album. And it's, that's the battle that Kerry has to fight now, is reestablishing, or establishing, I should say, his this band and his solo career. And I'll be curious to see if this formation holds forward. As how many albums have they got in them? Is it going to stick together?
Yeah, I'll be curious to see as well. I think that Phil Demmel and Kerry King have a really good chemistry. I honestly didn't realize they were sharing lead duties until I was kind of looking at some other reviews, and somebody had mentioned Phil's leads, and so then I pulled out the lyric sleeve and was looking at who's doing what solos. So now I kind of want to go back and listen to that with fresh ears. I think they blend really well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's not so far away from like, here's Kerry and here's John Petrucci, from Dream Theater. They're some more simpatico, like not as fluid or not as there's a word that I'm searching for here, but the chemistry between him and Jeff, it's not to that level, but it's not like Demmel's trying to outdo Kerry. Like, I'll show the world that I can play better than this guy who people know better than me. And I think he contributed wisely to the release. And who knows if that was dictated by Kerry or not, but I think Kerry, I would hope he knows that Phil's a better guitar player than him, and as far as a lead guitar player, but you can't, deny Kerry's right hand and his riffing as far as his rhythms and stuff. And Kerry's leads, I feel, I thought they actually stood out as I was listening to him because they're very Kerry. He didn't try reinventing a wheel.
No, they're very much in line with his lead style, and I think they were really well done throughout the whole album.
Yep. They're in traditional Kerry King fashion.
As far as chemistry with guitar players, Jeff Hanneman, he was a songwriter for Slayer as well. And I think, a lot of fans feel this way. I think he wrote a lot of the more memorable songs for Slayer. Jeff did, and you can definitely see which ones Kerry does, I guess, when you listen to like Repentless, where he was largely the songwriter, and then now on this solo one, kind of, which, I don't know, some of those like haunting, intros and stuff, I think were Jeff, and those are all memorable. Kerry tries to fill in some of that, but he doesn't quite have it.
Right. And I think he might do a disservice if he tried to go down that path, because if it's not in you and you're trying to force it, just go with your gut and go with what you know. I mean, challenge yourself out, nothing wrong with that, but then, if he's trying to mimic, if it becomes mimicry more than it is, him trying to find his way into those Jeff type of pieces, then, it's going to stand out and people are going to call him out on it. And Kerry's not a kind of guy who likes to be called out on anything. He's the caller, not the callee.
Yeah, he's got a pretty big ego from what I can just tell by seeing interviews and stuff. Obviously, I've never met the dude or hung out with him or anything, so he could be the coolest fucking guy ever in person, but he comes off as a real douchebag, honestly. And, I know he doesn't like being compared to Jeff, and I think it's dumb that he called his band Kerry King, honestly. I know he doesn't like it either. I don't remember why he eventually went with it, but I don't know. I think it takes away a little bit just having the name. Could have come up with something cooler,
Yeah, it does. It does feel like it is a like one notch against the album is, it's called Kerry King instead of coming up with like a traditional band name.
And he couldn't go with KK because we've got KK's Priest.
What about KK Slayer?
Right.
Let's just keep it going.
Oh, man, he's a fan of Priest, so why not? Fuck.
Right. And then Ripper can do like Ripper's Priest, and
yeah,
we can just keep this insanity going forever. I suppose it started well before that, although I guess when you think of Blotzer's Rat or whatever the hell, I don't know. There's how many different LA Guns and how many Great Whites and shit. Jesus Christ. So yeah, that is a good point. It is a knock that he didn't like give it time and kind of flesh out a name and try to be more mindful of that.
I think the album cover art's kind of lame, but the gatefold artwork is really cool.
Yeah.
But I do not.
Yeah, I don't
really
mind
care
it
for the album cover.
Yeah, it doesn't blow me away by any means, but I don't mind it. And one thing I do want to mention before I forget, and you kind of, when we were talking about the guitar players, I think there was almost although it probably wouldn't have been something that could have lasted, but I would have been interesting to hear if Dave Mustaine would have got involved in this project. Because kind of bring back when Kerry was in Megadeth, because then Dave wouldn't have to sing. He could come in and him and Kerry writing together. That would be kind of cool. But then would it be one of those things where the earth would be swallowed up in the sun with those two egos in one room? And then we just kind of get swallowed into this like black hole.
Yeah, that seems volatile.
It does. Like the super collider just gone full and just suck us into some other dimension or some shit, or just turn the earth inside out.
You know, it's interesting you brought up Dave Mustaine and Megadeth, because one of the things I was thinking about with this album is, as a negative against it, that it's kind of controlled, I guess is the word I would use for it. It's really heavy, but it all seems like really executed precisely. And I was thinking while I was listening to it, like if you listen to Killing's My Business, you know, it sounds like the wheels are going to go flying off that bus at any moment, you know, controlled chaos. And I like that element of metal. And so for me, the fact that this is such a controlled sounding album, it takes away from the heaviness just a little bit. But, you know, adding Dave Mustaine to the mix wouldn't change anything, because Dave isn't playing music like he was doing on Killing's My Business anymore either. So.
Oh, no, definitely not. He walked away from that in the 80s or early 90s at the latest. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I guess I have it in my notes, but now that you're talking about it, I guess I'll include it here in this discussion. Is I think a missed opportunity here was working with a new drummer. Now, don't get me wrong. I dig Paul Bostoff, and I liked what he was doing with Slayer just fine, but I would have preferred for him to get a new drummer and breathe new life into Kerry King Creations.
Yeah, like Dave Lombardo.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
but technically, I was actually in my notes. I wanted him to go find the next Dave Lombardo. You know, I know Eloy is with Slipknot now, so that was an opportunity. But you know, he's got a good relationship with Paul, and I think he probably can keep Paul right where he needs Paul to be. He doesn't need some new kid coming in and questioning, you know, why is it this way, or why you're writing yet another song about religion and et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I know Paul's a safe pick, and Paul's, you know, he's probably just that, maybe it's that friendship that Kerry wanted to keep Paul close and working in this project. I'm not sure, but for me, I think a missed opportunity by not working with a new drummer and trying to, you know, bring somebody up the ranks, or somebody who's out there that's already out there kicking ass in another band that maybe would join a side project, or maybe the Sepultura drummer that Eloy that replaced Eloy. So, because it sounds like that guy's pretty solid too.
Well, I think you know, Paul's a really heavy drummer, but his heaviness doesn't come through on this album. Like I said, I went back and listened to Repentless right after this album here yesterday, and everything just sounds so much heavier in the Slayer mix, you know what I mean? And what I was thinking about periodically throughout the Kerry King album is, I think it needed a little bit more of like the Dave Lombardo, like punk snappier type drumming with the heavier elements added. But some of those fast-paced songs, I just think would have sounded cooler with Dave's style of, drumming, which reminds me a lot of punk rock drumming, but much, much heavier. But it is all really good.
Another thing that is probably missing too, when you're comparing this album and the last Slayer album, is Kerry had to work with a peer. He had to work with an equal, and that it being Tom. So anything he does, you know, Tom's probably giving him feedback, or Tom's like, you know, pushing back a little bit, or, you know, they're searching for like that specific Slayer sound. So here he's got a little more freedom, but he doesn't have, you know, I didn't even think to look to see who got a producer credit. Is it just Kerry? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I have the sleeve here.
He does.
Produced, mixed, and mastered by Josh Wilbur.
Who's that?
I don't know. Engineered by Josh Wilbur and Kyle McCauley. But you could see the influence that Tom has with the writing, even though he's not like the main songwriter, because it's definitely different, you know. But I believe some of these songs were leftovers from Repentless. And funny, you know, Kerry talks shit about the Diabolos album, but I think there's a couple songs on here that sounded like they could have come from that era, even though Jeff largely wrote that album.
How dare you?
Oh, okay. I found some information here from Josh Wilbur here. He's worked with Korn, Lamb of God, Trivium, A Day to Remember, Avenged Sevenfold, Megadeth, Bad Religion. Why is Megadeth so far down that fucking line? This is this guy's personal website. Papa Roach, Kill or Be Killed, Tenacious D, and I'm digging through Gojira, Quicksand, Dillinger, Escape Plan, Hatebreed, and Parkway Drive. There's some other ones in there that kind of skipped over some of the ones that I feel are lesser, but so that he's been around. But again, I don't know if it's somebody that's going to push back on anybody. That's one thing I like about listening to podcasts about like when people were recording in the 80s and the 70s and stuff, and producers like demanding more from these guys. Like, you can do better. You can cut it better. Or is your throat hurt? It doesn't hurt enough. One more take, because I need that rasp on this one. And then we'll call it a night, and then you can heal for tomorrow. That kind of shit. Now it's all, are you feeling okay? Does that sound good, Kerry? You want to do that? Can we go get some ice cream, Kerry? It's like, come on. I don't know the guy. Of course I'm speculating, but.
Nah, he's in there like, dude, Kerry, that fucking lead, you sound like a stone cold bitch. You need to go back in there and lay down a fucking lead that is worthy of your album.
Let's hope that's what was happening.
And take those fucking sunglasses off when I'm talking to you.
You look like a fucking tool. You're indoors. For Christ's sakes. Angel of death, my ass. All right. Well, I guess we should probably get on with the track by track portion. We did a lot of discussing on that. That ate up a little bit of time, but that's good. Nothing wrong with some good, healthy discussion. I'm sure we'll get some at the end too as we go through. So Nate, I'm going to turn over the first track to you to kick us off.
Oh yeah, the intro.
Well, actually, I suppose we need to head with the personnel here. So we got Kerry King from Slayer, Mark Asagueda from Death Angel on vocals. Kerry just does guitars, by the way. He didn't. That's one thing, Nate, is I'm surprised you didn't mention it. It's the lack of acoustic guitar work on this album. It just was shocking.
Yeah, it's really missing that folk element.
It is. I was looking for a little Crosby, Stills, and Nash or something, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes.
Not a single vocal harmony to be found on this whole album.
Not a one. It's insane. What was Kerry thinking? Not a theremin or anything. So anyhow, back to Mark Asagueda, Death Angel on vocals, Phil Demmel from Violence and Machine Head on guitars, and of course he's worked with a few other bands, Kyle Sanders from Hell Yeah on bass, and then of course we've already mentioned it many times, Paul Bostoff from Forbidden and the Mighty Slayer on drums.
How did a guy from Hell Yeah find his way into this lineup?
Hell if I know. Maybe they toured together or something, and maybe he's the Satanist or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so the first track is Diablo. It's an intro. As far as intros go, it kind of lays the foundation for what you're going to hear in the rest of the album. It's got some, dark riffing, I guess I'll say. I ranked this one at a 3 out of 5, just kind of gave it an average, which I often do with intros,
Yeah, when I first listened to it, I thought, this is pretty decent. I'm really digging this. And I was waiting for the song to kick in, and then I realized, this is actually just an intro to the album, which, I understand, especially he's going to be touring this and he wants the music to walk out to. I think it was a missed opportunity to do something that would be a little bit more standoutish and something that's actually more along the lines of a pre-recorded track. This feels like something you should be playing right out of the gate to kick into the second song. So it's almost, to me, feels like that 1-2 punch that you need to have with these two songs. I didn't rate it, but I'd say it's 6 or 7 out of 10 just to give it a rating. But yeah, it could have been a 12-track album. They could have done Diablo / Where I Reign and called it a almost 5-minute song.
Honestly, this whole album could have just been a 9 or 10 track album, not 13, and it would have been a way more solid album. I think there's a few filler songs, but there's a lot of Kerry flexing in this intro. It just sounds like him, He's got his wah-wah pedal going, and that's it, man.
Up next, track number 2 is Where I Reign. That one clocks in at just under 4 minutes. This is one that, obviously now we finally get to hear Rob's vocals. I mean, if you didn't sample the stuff that was released before the album came out, then you didn't know what you were in for. I knew what I was in for, but I'm like, okay, I want to see, hear him from the beginning to end and see where we get with Rob's vocals, because I know what he's done in Death Angel, and is any of that going to come into this album? And it didn't. It actually feels like Kerry kind of, and it's probably Rob's choice too. And I've heard interviews with him talking about this now that he can finally talk about it. He didn't want to mimic Tom, but he also wanted to bring something different. And I don't think he really brought anything different other than different from what he normally does. It just kind of like he went with like generic metal vocalist, but added just a little bit more spice to it than just, like a karaoke singer type of thing that you'd see all over YouTube or anything like that. This one here, Where I Reign, it's a decent song. And it's cool to hear Kerry going again, hearing the leads and all that stuff, and it, kind of starts to percolate those memories of Slayer. But like I mentioned, I'd like these two tracks to have been together, like a Darkness of Christ into Disciple type of situation. And but this one I gave out a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, the vocals, interestingly, sound like hardcore vocals to me, like a Hatebreed, that type of band, which I don't really care for, honestly. The band, I don't care for Hatebreed much, but and these do sound, I think, better than that. But that's just what it kept reminding me of, is like throughout the album. I had made a note that you can't help but compare it to Slayer, I guess, knowing it's Kerry King and the vocals are similar-ish.
Yep.
But it's different. And there's really great leads. I feel like Kerry's really going all out on the leads on this opening track. And, it's a fast-paced song. So you got this intro, and then it just goes into this, pretty fast-paced opening track. I rank this one at a 3 out of 5.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you're doing you do 5s where I have mine in 10s. So I guess for me, I'll transcribe mine to match what you got there. So what would that be here? Yeah, 3. Yep, 3 out of 5. Right? Something like that. 3.5. Yeah, cut it in half. 3.5. There we go. Sorry, it's been a long fucking 2024.
Halfway done. All right, so next song is Residue. And my very first note that I took listening to it is this leftover from Diablos. I don't know. I wouldn't know how
That's
to specifically say like what about it sounds like that era, but it just had some of those elements to me. I love that album, so it didn't bum me out at all that it reminds me of that. There's a real moshy breakdown just a little bit past the midway. This is where I kind of started to notice that it has like a controlled sound, which takes away from it a little bit for me, the heaviness. But this is a heavy track. This is one of the singles they released, isn't it?
Yes.
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
I like that comparison to like maybe a leftover track or maybe a leftover riff that Kerry had in his head that survived from that time frame. Because I'm kind of getting it in my head a little bit when you mention that, and because I listened to it again today, and it's like, yeah, I think you're right. It's got that kind of vibe to it. I guess I just didn't really think much about where it could have come from in that fashion. So I like that comparison or that notation. Yeah, don't have much notes on this one. I dig the groove on it. I didn't feel like it didn't like go into song where sometimes an album will kind of have steps where you get to the first song and then the second song just kind of raises the bar a little bit and the third song might go even higher, and this one is just like, no, it just kind of, here's the album, but as you're pointing out, it's almost like it's too controlled. It's like, okay, everybody set your metronomes to this many beats per minute, everything's going to be in that zone.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And I think, my notes were just, I was hoping for maybe just a little bit of pop, but nothing wrong with the track. I 3.5 out of 5. Up next is Idle Hands. This one's 3:45 for the length, and that's song number 4. So this one's got a little bit more going on. I like the duality of the vocals. It's one of those songs that I can almost hear Tom's voice and see how Tom would work this song. So for me, this would be like a really cool song that I thought if they had done another album, that this would be on it. And I'd be curious to see, or to just hear that snarl. That's what's fucking missing, is that Tom Araya snarl, especially on those quieter parts, that oozing and that menacing that Tom had. And that was part of what we loved about Slayer. And Rob doesn't have that, or he's trying to maybe not mimic Tom, and I understand that completely. But I like what he's doing on this track, back to Rob. And so that was my notes on that. Dig it. And I did make a note on this. This is the track with the most plays on Spotify. It like huge bump. It goes from like, oh, okay, here's a few things, and all of a sudden you get to this one, and it just jumps way over. And then immediately the rest of the album just kind of falls off. Spoiler alert. I don't know how many people are using this in place of buying the album. I'm sure there's some listeners, but for me, I use it as a tool for this because I just left the CD in the case and figured I'm gonna make Spotify pays Kerry King for a few more spins on this. Let's see, Idle Hands. This one I gave 3 1/4, I guess, of breaking down my system here out of 5.
This was also released as a single. I love the lyric, "Do the devil's work," with the little chunky riff right after it. This one's pretty catchy standout song for me. I gave it a 4. It's got particularly angry sounding vocals, and of course all the leads are fucking killer on it.
I was wondering if this was one of those early release ones, and that's maybe why it got such a huge pop on Spotify. I wonder if it was even the first one that was released. That's why it's got this, huge number compared to the rest of the album.
I've seen it. I saw it described as a thrash anthem.
Oh God, that's to me feels like an overused term. Anytime a thrash band puts out an album, there's a thrash anthem on it, or the whole album is a thrash anthem. It's like the participation trophy of thrash. You got your thrash anthem.
All right, this is one of the very much standout tracks on the album for me, and that's "Trophies of the Tyrant." There's a lot of memorable moments, I feel like, on this album, and this song is definitely one of those. The bridge is really fucking heavy. I thought the leads were a little more tame on this one, considering how awesome the rest of the song is. It's a really good one. I gave this one a 5. It's a little slower with the groovier riff. It's kind of a change up, I think, from the first handful of songs.
I don't have much notes on this one. I'm surprised you gave it a 5. Wow. Let's see. One thing I did note is I like the difference, and I like, it carries varying things up, and that is going to hold true for the rest of the album as well. I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but I think it was around this time that I'm like, okay, Kerry's giving us some more to play with, and it's and I even noted, and now that you mentioned it earlier, and here is where it hit me, that the album is too controlled. And it took to song 5 for me to put that in my notes. Of course, you've already popped that cherry in our pre-album discussion. Hit me at track 5. Dig the song, and I like I said, I dig that we're kind of moving through the variations of what Slayer did. Even with it wasn't always just straight ahead thrash. Some there's those punky elements and a few other things that are kind of thrown in the mix. And yeah, that's a note I had in here. I gave this, let me break it down, 3.25 out of 10. I'm sorry, out of 5. Up next, let's see if you can guess what this song's about, everybody. At 5 minutes and 15 seconds, holy buckets, Kerry. He's turning into a prog rock here. Crucifixation, the 6th song. I thought you'd like that. Let's see. On this one, I said the bridge or the breakdown in this has shades of Gemini from Undisputed Attitude, and of course, that kind of gets me hard. And this is the one that I felt like had the most going on, where you kind of called it out in song 5 and Trophies of the Tyrant. To me, Crucifixation, I thought, was that one that hit the spot for me. And but ratings wise, it's right up there with the same. Kerry's really not earning a lot on my marks here. I got a 3.25 out of 5.
The Rockfather magazine called this song a straight up neck wrecker.
Oh, jeez. Another overused trope.
So this one picks up the pace again. Lyrically, it's anti-religion. We already, know Kerry's stance on that. He's talked a lot about that, and, it's been in all of his songs. I do like, what it's talking about, about religion creating division, not unity. For me, this one isn't as memorable. The breakdown, though, is really catchy, but it wasn't enough for me to kind of hold up the whole song. I gave this a 3, and something that I just wanted to mention on here, and hopefully people will check this band out if you're not already familiar with it, but this also came up for me a few times throughout, and it's that they sound like the band Warbeast. There's like a lot of moments on here that just really remind me of that band. And that band consists of Bruce Corbett, who has passed away. He was the vocalist. Joe Gonzalez on drums, Scott Shelby on guitar, Lyric Fairchild on bass, and Drew Shoud on guitar. Yeah, they put out like 3 full-length albums and like possibly 2 EPs. They were, newer thrash band in the 2000 era.
Yeah.
So we've played them on the show at least a couple of times. Probably been quite a few years now. But anyways, totally was thinking of them a few times throughout this album, but definitely on this song.
Huh.
Next up, we've got Tension. So we've got a little bit more of a darker atmospheric feel to this one. Ominous, still a heavy song. I don't have much more to say about it, but I did give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, here's one that's going to earn... This is where we start kicking in some higher scores for me, is past the midpoint, or roughly. Yeah, Tension at 248. So as, the song title right away, I'm thinking, oh, is this, he's going to build tension. And I was waiting for there like to be, waiting for it to like truly kick in, but I don't have in my notes whether I really felt like it did. And that was one I didn't listen to today. That's right. I did skip that one. I don't know why. At any rate, this is kind of when I'm realizing I'm like, well, so far I haven't had, which, a term that I've probably overused myself here is that those home run type of songs where I want a song to just grab me and go, this is one that's going to be played live for the rest of his life type of situation. Slayer's got a bunch of those. And it's like, sometimes bands get to where they have so many of those songs where, you're not going to have to, you can't keep the same set list if you're continually writing new music. A band like Kiss or something like that, they can kind of get away from that. I know the fans will complain about it, but they'll still buy the tickets. Where, Slayer or Iron Maiden, they'll change things up because, they're only going to play, hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on the venue or depending on the band. And they can't play it all. And I know this is Kerry's first album, and he's obviously going to have a lot of Slayer fall back to, when he's doing live shows and stuff. But so far, there are no home run songs in this one. However, however, is I'm still appreciating the fact that he's changing things up. And this is another one of those songs that reminded me like, yep, he's not just cookie cuttering this album. And I do appreciate that. I gave this one 4 out of 5. All right, song number 8, a nice, short but sweet one here, Nate. Everything I Hate About You, clocking in at 121. And this one, another one that I noted that there's shades of Undisputed Attitude on this track, and maybe a little bit more Kerry wearing his influences on his sleeve in a fashion, which I'm very appreciative of. I really love that album. I think it's a great follow-up to the previous track, and it's another one of those that I feel like he kind of created like another 1-2 punch with Tension and Everything I Hate About You, both being short songs. You put those together, damn, you've got a 4-minute song. So it's similar in a fashion to Postmortem and A Raining Blood. I know some people might think that's sacrilege, but I'm kind of just using it as an example. I'm not saying that identical. I give this a 4 out of 5.
I didn't have too many notes on this one other than it's just a typical fast-paced Kerry King riff. That was the impression I got from it. It's a quick song, and I just thought it was okay, and I gave it a 3. Then we roll into Toxic. It's another angry, anti-society type song. I do like the idea of not forcing your opinion on others, which is kind of, what the sentiment of the album is. And I think there's a line in there where he says something like, I just want to be able to choose which tree I hang my noose from, kind of a, just leave me the fuck alone. I gave this one a 4. This is a strong one off the album for me.
Oh, really? Yeah. This was, for me, it was a little bit of a step back from the previous two. I like the groove of it and the lyrical structure of it and the chorus in the track, but there's a point when it's around the 2.5 minute mark where it feels like the song is ending, and I thought, oh, this will be like really cool, like the way this, it's going to end. And then it just kicks into like another verse and another lead and like another verse. And then it almost started to feel like, we're beating a dead horse here, Kerry. Everything's toxic. I get it. Should have just covered Britney Spears. Didn't she do Toxic?
I don't know.
I'm turning to you, Nick, because you're your resident Britney Spears expert.
I don't recall that one.
Okay.
I'm not the fan I thought I was, apparently.
I guess. Yeah, wow. You better turn in your tiara.
Fuck, man. I will. I'm going to bring it over to the ARC donation center here right when we're done.
Yes. Photos or it doesn't happen. I need to see this. Legitimize it there, Nate. So I don't know if I gave mine. Let's see. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. Up next at 337 is the 10th song, Two Fists. And here I am again, Nate. I'm getting myself some Undisputed Attitudes vibes on this track as well. This might be my favorite track of the album. One thing I would have liked is maybe shorten it up a touch, keep it a little more in that punky range and keep that punky vibe, just like the previous one that overstays its welcome. But, I was in the studio and they didn't ask me for my input, so there it is. If this song had been a little bit more shortened and a little more concise, I would have given it a 4.5 out of 5. But it just kind of becomes a little bit repetitive. In multiple listens, that might change for me, but right out of the gate, I only could give it a 4 out of 5.
Yep, I noticed this was a punk rock song right from the start as well, and then looked at some reviews and saw that, that's just pretty common. I guess it's that obvious. I would say this is my favorite song on the album. I like the line, "It all comes down to this, my will and these two fists." Yeah, there was some other, let's see. I got the lyrics out here. Oh yeah, I thought my hatred went away, but now it's fucking here to stay. That just seems like a Kerry King thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good, it's a good metal song. Good punk metal song. Crossover. I gave this one a 5.
I figured you'd say that, especially since you were kind of along the lines of favorite track. Since you've already used a 5, I'm like, oh, then this is going to be a 5.
I want more of this on the album.
Agreed. Yes. And more, trim the songs down, Kerry. You're not, trying to do prog punk.
It's not Tool.
That too. God, can you imagine Kerry trying to write a song like Tool?
Yeah. No.
Oh, man. I don't think he could pull it off.
The next song is Rage. I felt like this was kind of another filler on the album. Didn't really bring a bunch, to it. It's a, fast-paced song. It's good, but not memorable. I gave it a 3.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on this one. This one did step back a touch. It's almost 3.5 minutes long. He's retreading old tropes and lyrics constantly. And, that's just how Kerry is. He really wants to nail home his points on how angry he is at the status quo in religion. And he's angry and all about his fists and stuff. Not enough songs about fisting, though. But I digress.
Again,
Sorry,
it's no Tool.
Exactly. Let's see, where do we leave off, or what did I leave off? That was yours. Let's see. So, and that's one thing I did say is I wondered if he had included Rob in the lyric writing, where the album would have went, or is Kerry just was so wanted to just get the album done and not include other people in it, because everything's Kerry's song. It's Kerry's everything. He wrote everything.
Are you talking about Phil? You've said Rob a few times. His name is Mark.
Or Mark. Jesus. I threw in, I switched him for the guitar player in Dark Angel or Death Angel. Oh, thank you. Mark Asagueda. Damn it. Yeah, thank you. No, that's a good point.
I just wanted to get it all cleared up.
I was having a senior moment there, I guess. It was stuck in my brain and I just kept using it. So thank you, Mark. God, did I even put that in my notes? I think I did. That's where I pulled the name from. But yep, I did. There it is, Rob. So I wonder if Mark had been involved with the lyric writing, if things would be different. It's not a bad track. Yeah, I agree with you. It felt like it was a step back. And I give this a 3.25 out of 5. Up next, the 12th song is Shrapnel, clocking in at just a shade over 5 minutes. This one here, I really like Mark's vocal delivery at the start of this one and the following verse buildups. And then as I was going through it, I just I really like the way he's doing the lyrics or the vocals on the whole song. Let's see. So there's a solid later years Slayer vibe on this track, probably from the last 3 albums, I would say. Even though it's a longer song than the others, it doesn't feel that way. And that's one thing I do appreciate. Yes, it's a longer song, but if you can keep a long song interesting, then it doesn't feel like it's overstayed its welcome. Just to see kind of recycle riff, and just because you can write a longer story, if you don't do things properly, it gets a little bit repetitive. And in this one, I don't feel that way. But I do note that the last 20 seconds of the song is just basically guitars making sounds. Or I had noise, but then I crossed it out. So, still 4 minutes and 60 or 40 seconds when it's all said and done, and then you get an extra 20 seconds that it's just there. This one I gave a 4 out of 5.
I felt like this was like a priest worship song.
Oh,
that was my first impression. The opening riff just seemed very priestish to me. It's really heavy throughout. I felt like this could have come straight off of the Diablos album. This was the second one that I felt like just sounded like it is totally from that album. So I thought that was interesting. But there's 2 songs that reminded me of those that album on here. Yeah, that's about all I had to say about it. It's a really good song. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I didn't dig deep enough into my Slayerology, because like you're calling out Diablos, I was mentioning later years Slayer vibe, and maybe going back and listening to it and thinking of it in that fashion, I wonder if that would connect the dots, or if I was really thinking more along Christ Illusion in that time frame or something like that.
All right, the final song, From Hell I Rise. I was hoping for more as a closing song. Some of the reviews I read about it, gave it, like one person said, it's a rage of ragers. It just doesn't grab it for me that way. I actually only gave this a 3 out of 5, just as an average song. I was really hoping for a stronger closing song.
Nate, here's where you and I are like on the same fucking page, because I couldn't agree more. I thought, especially the title track, that I wanted this album to go out and just wanting me to jump right back to track 1 so I could spin it all over again, type of thing. Just go out with a bang and make me leave me wanting more. And it didn't. This track should have been mid-album. It should not be at the end of the album. Shrapnel would have been a better ender. But here we are. This is where they put it. And it felt, basic fare is what I wrote. Couldn't agree more with your comments on this. I'm not going to gild the lily. You said it perfectly. And of course, we got another anti-religious song. Shocker from Kerry. And I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. So that is the album, Nate. We got 13 or 12 tracks if you put that instrumental in where it should be with that first track. But we're in that Slayer sweet spot of, around 45 minutes or so. Should have been a little bit shorter, because I know they've done 40 to 42 minute albums.
Definitely could have just been 9 or 10 tracks.
Could have trimmed some fat.
I had an overall ranking of 4. That I rounded up from like 3.6 or something like that. It's probably got some songs I'll put into a playlist. Two Fists especially. Idle Hands likely as well. Yeah,
my overall thoughts is I wish that Mark would have been able to do a little bit more with his vocals on the album, but I also, or Kerry just to get somebody else. But then again, it's cool that he's giving Mark this shot and working with him. So, the Bay Area guys, in a fashion, of course, I know Slayer didn't really technically start there, but that's where they found when they peeled the makeup off and kind of, started to become Slayer in that fashion. So I appreciate the fact that Mark is involved in this. I'm fighting the urge to call him Rob. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my brain today. One thing I did do is I listened to some of the stuff live, and I really like the vibe live, and I really like Mark's vocals on the Slayer stuff live. I mean, they were pulling some early Slayer, and his scream, it's like, oh fuck yes, man. That's what is nice to hear again. That because he can get those higher pitches where Tom just couldn't do that in those later years. As he got older, he couldn't quite get to where Tom used to be, and Mark still got that. He's a younger guy too, but he's got that voice. So I thought that was pretty damn sweet. So I'll be curious to see what happens with the band going forward. Regarding other staff members, Demel, solid guy, solid addition. And I mentioned it earlier, I wish that Kerry would have just found a different drummer, given somebody else an opportunity, found that next Dave Lombardo. But here we are. And I also appreciate the fact that he did give Paul the nod, just because it's like, you guys have worked together. You've been a team for so many years. He was in the band. He was out of the band. He was in the band. So I get it. So I'm not going to harp too much on that. Bass, who cares? It's a bass player. They put somebody in there. They got the guy from Hell Yeah. Doesn't detract from it, and hopefully he brings the shit live, and that'll be key for what Kerry. Wow, Freudian slip there. What Kerry needs live is a bass player who is gonna hold it down, and it'd be kind of cool to see somebody kind of bring it up, not like maybe to Frankie Benali levels, or Frankie from Anthrax. Frankie Benali was Quiet Riot's drummer, not a bass player. Yeah, I'm having a fucking good brain day here, Nate. I apologize. But, somebody maybe that just had a little bit more, cachet that would have been kind of cool, but I'm not going to knock the band for having this guy in it. One thing is, it's a solid album, and it reminds me of when Heaven and Hell first released The Devil You Know, where it's like the songs are good, but there's not like obviously you peg 2 of them as 5 out of 5. For me, I couldn't peg any of them like 5 out of 5. And I had the same reaction to the Devil You Know from Hell or Heaven and Hell. And that album, through multiple listens in time and space, has grown on me quite a bit. And I think that same thing is going to happen here, where it's set a baseline of roughly just shy of 4 out of 5. I got, 3.5 out of 5 is my overall ranking on it. But I just have a feeling with living through it a little bit longer. And, now that's like, okay, this is what we get. This is the album. Now let's just listen to it and enjoy it and not pick it apart. I have a feeling it could slide into that 4 territory with multiple listens. So I'll see how it goes from there. But that's what you gave it, correct? 4 out of 5?
Yeah. I want to say, I don't know what the CD is like, but listening to Spotify versus the vinyl it does have a heavier edge to it. Listening to the vinyl, it has more range, I guess.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, and I spent some of I only used that as a tool to get to get my notes out. I've listened to the album in my car on the CD, but I have not obviously on vinyl. So if there's like a warmth that would have kind of boosted up a little bit, I did not get that from the CD.
I'm just finding more and more, and I mean, it makes total sense that you lose a lot on Spotify.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
And definitely with metal, some of the extreme stuff I listen to, like so much gets lost in listening to it in Spotify, even on a nice car stereo system, When you throw the vinyl on, you're like, wow, I didn't even, hear this or that. It's pretty wild, but it's pretty compressed.
Well,
so.
I'm sure. Yeah, Spotify is probably grabbing that extreme stuff and just compressing the shit out of it, going, they won't notice. They're all drunk or high. They're going to catch any differences. Right. Just put it down to 128 and call it a day. The 5 people that listen to this song, who cares? Fuck them.
I mean,
they got their money.
You take somebody like Burzum, for instance, where, he took like a speaker cone out of a speaker and used it as a microphone. It was already recorded to just sound like shit, and then you compress it all and put it on Spotify, and it's just, I don't know, man. You already have to kind of have a thing for that kind of music to want to even hear that anyways. Then it just sounds like complete shit.
Yeah, one thing I did not do, looking back on it now, is I never did plug it into my main stereo system. It was more listening to it in the car to kind of get that foundation. But then when I took my notes, it was, I use Spotify as my tool there. So maybe spinning the CD on my home system might help a little bit too, but I don't know if I need to buy this one on vinyl. I guess if it came on sale, I'd probably snap it up. I don't mind supporting what Kerry's doing there, especially, doing the solo thing.
Yeah, I'm just buying vinyl now, so.
I don't see myself buying a shirt. I don't like the logo. And I don't care for the band name even.
No.
Unless there's some other specific art, then, maybe get a shirt. But I think they had some package deals, because I looked at it at first. I'm like, do I want to be wearing this shirt around? I don't see it. I don't like it. I don't need it. So I moved on.
It makes it hard for me to think that this is going to be like a long-standing band just because of the name. Like Job for a Cowboy. You're like, how much success are you going to have calling your band a Job for a Cowboy? Which I think they're still around, but they're not,
Yeah.
Come on. Kerry King, you could have done better than that.
Yeah. I agree. And it would have felt more like a team than just, I'm in Kerry King's band. I know Kerry's a name and all, but he's not somebody that I think has the respect of the music community at large. Within our genre, to where he had to name it that and people would be like, oh my God, that's a great idea. Maybe his girlfriend or his wife. I should say his wife, because he's married. Maybe, for all I know, he's got a girlfriend too.
Yeah, if he wasn't as well known and somebody just came out, called themselves Kerry King or whatever, people wouldn't give it no fucking attention at all probably. But because he's from Slayer. He's going to be able to ride off
Right.
of it.
Hey, for the record, Job for a Cowboy just released an album this year in February.
Yeah.
So they're still going.
They're still going.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums. There was a 10-year gap, though. Sun Eater in 2014 when we started the podcast, Nate. Holy shit. Interesting.
Yeah.
I
thought their first album was okay. I don't remember now. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I never dug too deep into that band. Not my style per se. But yeah, Moon Healer came out in February 23rd on Metal Blade Records. So if you want to check out some Job for a Cowboy that Nate brought up, there you go. I got a few EPs too.
Couldn't Kerry King have called his band like Black Magic or Antichrist or something like that?
I wonder if he was thinking along those lines of something that would be completely in the face of Christianity.
That would have been
maybe somebody
cooler.
talked him out of it and just said, call it fucking Kerry King.
I mean,
Let's
they put
move
the
on.
inverted cross on in the logo and stuff, so it's got that satanic vibe already. So we're stuck with the name Kerry King. I guess that's just how it goes, man.
Is it satanic or is it more anti-religious?
It's probably more anti-religious, but
Yeah, that's Kerry's vibe in my opinion.
Satanism still pushes people's buttons.
Oh, definitely. I think I'm over it. The whole inverted cross thing. I'm bored with it. It was shocking in the 80s. we're pretty far away from the 80s, Nate.
Yeah, we are.
Maybe you can carry it through the 90s, but I think at this point, just, we're back to beating that dead horse. All right. So yeah, I'll be curious to see if this band does have any legs. Are they going to, is Kerry writing new music right now? Or is he just focusing his efforts on relearning the Slayer songs that he didn't prepare for the reunion shows or what? Nah, I shouldn't call that. I know they're calling them that, but it's more just a, we're not done, but the band is kind of on its, its death throes, and I'm going to be fucking very curious to hear Tom and see the band back in action again. And was Gary involved in this? Did they announce that? I thought they did, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I don't recall. I'm just assuming he is. I'm wondering, how long could this band go on as is when he's got people from other bands? He didn't hire any people who aren't already in, established bands. Or are these guys all out of those bands now?
Well, Phil, I think this is his new gig because he quit Violence again.
And he's not doing Machine Head because he quit there too.
No, yeah, he bailed a long time ago on that one. And Mark is still working with Death Angel. Bostoff, I think he's just, hitched his wagon to Kerry between the Kerry King and Slayer shows. He's pretty well locked down, I think.
What about the Hell Yeah dude?
Again, are you going to miss him if he's not on stage if he comes to your town?
Definitely. He's an integral part.
Do you remember his name off the top of your head?
No. I only remember
Exactly.
that dumb band name.
Hell Yeah.
I've never even
That's
listened
the
to
name.
Hell Yeah. I don't even know what they sound like. Their name is so stupid. Speaking of band names that are dumb, that is a really stupid fucking band name. I just think it's going to be some
Yeah.
kind of like bro music. Some fucking knucklehead at the gym will be listening to,
It's not up your alley. Knowing you and the little bits I've listened to it, it's not even up my alley. I don't care for it, but obviously they had a lot of success and that's great. It gave something for Vinny to do post Dime's death. So nothing wrong with that.
Is that why they had success? Because they had Vinny as the drummer?
That definitely helped.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they got the guys from Mudvayne too.
Oh, yeah.
Chad Gray on vocals and the guitar player too, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the only reason I dug into it early on was because of, the names that were involved in it. And then I heard it and was like, no, that's not up my alley. And so, if other people enjoy it, that's great.
Yeah. Good
Had
on
a lot
them.
of shows and had a lot of fun. Now I'm curious. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I'm still trying to look it up. Ah, crap. I'm going to move
Chad
on.
something? Gray?
No, that's the singer.
Are you talking about from Mudvayne?
Well, no, I know Chad's, he's Mudvayne and he's Hell Yeah, but no, I'm trying to think of the bass player's name.
Oh.
Kyle Sanders, which should be easy to remember. I mean, Kyle, you think of South Park, and then
Yeah.
Sanders is the guy from Nile.
It's just such an average name.
It's no Kerry
It's
King.
so
is what you're
average,
saying?
you can't even remember it.
Well, he's got the gig, so nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he stepped up a little bit. got into a heavier outfit. And,
Yeah, it's a good point.
you know,
Well, what else was he doing? Hell Yeah's not around anymore.
next he'll be, playing bass for like Mayhem or something.
You really think so? Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, Nate, we need to wrap this up and we need to pick a song. Did you have one off the top of your head you thought you'd like to share with everybody?
Seemed like Two Fists would be the likely candidate.
I can go with that. Sounds like a good one to go out with. It was kind of nice to dig a little deep into this one. Like I said, I'll be spending a little bit more, get a little bit more time and see how it clicks for me. So if you haven't heard the album, well, here's a song that'll maybe get you turned on to it. Maybe not. We shall see. And Nate, it was cool to do another track by track. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It was a good album to talk about. It wasn't painful to listen to, or like some of the ones, like, fuck, I gotta sit and listen to this thing and talk about it. Fuck.
Agreed, especially breaking it down song by song. Worst to best isn't so bad because you can do a quick synopsis of the album and then you move on to the next one.
Yeah.
This one, you're digging deep and track by track and noting it and ranking each one.
It's a good slab of metal.
It is definitely worth your time. Hope you guys enjoy it. Here's a song to send you off with. And until next time, my friends.
Stay heavy.
Bottom is destroying my sobriety. It's suffocating my reality. Another victim of society. Propaganda is a nose. But I know the brutal truth. This fucking ship's about to sink. I think I need another drink. I only want the right to choose which street I hate my fucking nose. There is no compensate for how the great God hates. It all comes down to this: my will and these two fasts. Maybe I seem too paranoid, uncomplicated yet devoid. My sanity is on the edge, itching to jump off of a ledge. There is no compromise for how the great God lies. It all comes down to this: my will and these two fasts. This horse raid is just a test. I can't negotiate this mess. Mentally empty life decays, forever spiraling away. Drowning in incompetence, behold the world's irrelevance. I thought my hatred went away, but now it's fucking here to stay. It's fucking here to stay. Now put the focus onto war. No fucking different than before. The blind will soon begin to say that propaganda needs to fade. There is no compensate for how the great God hates. It all comes down to this: my will and these two fasts. It's time to fight the war machine, the greatest monster ever seen. I'd sell myself for just a taste when all the powers go to waste. Victimize the innocent, behold the Armageddonist. I thought my hatred went away, but no, it's fucking here to stay. It's fucking here to stay. It's fucking here to stay. My story's coming to an end, and all I've said I will defend. Society has been derailed, not even good enough to fail. There is no compromise for how the great God lies. It all comes down to this: my will and these two fasts.
His name is Mark.
Thank you for listening to Disciples of the Watch. This episode was produced by Gene Vogel and Nathan Matnich. All music is property of the artist or the publisher. Please buy music and support the art we all love. Editing on this episode was done by Gene Vogel. Check out our website, dotwpod.com, for show notes, links, and more information on the show, as well as connections to social media. Don't forget to subscribe to the show using your preferred podcast application, or use our FeedBurner RSS feed listed on our website. Plug it into your browser or whatever app you're using, and then you will get all of the goodness moving forward. And you can also download the show as MP3 files from dotwpod.com. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the support us link at our website. As well, we have Patreon, so you can do a monthly contribution if you so desire, or purchase some of our merch from our website. Thank you for listening, friends, and stay heavy.